Good morning, this is Stat Sensei, Mr. Spensei, and this is the assignment for the hypothesis test for our test review, and this will be our scenarios vegetarians, and we're going to be running a hypothesis test. It says test the claim that vegetarians have a significantly lower mean iron level than non-vegetarians at a 3% level. So they're telling us right here that alpha is 3%. So we're going to go ahead and note this up at the top. Alpha equals 0.03 or 3%. All right. And I'm going to go back through the scenario, even though I did so in the warm up as well. So, iron is an essential mineral that plays a crucial role in the transporting oxygen through the body. It's found in two forms in the diet: hemiiron, which is primarily found in animal products, and non hemiiron, which comes from plant based sources. Hemiiron is more readily absorbed by the body, while non hemiiron requires the presence of vitamin C and other compounds to enhance absorption. So we have vegetarians. They're concerned that vegetarians is less than non-vegetarians. Nutritionists is conducting a study to determine whether vegetarians who do not consume hemiiron from meat sources tend to have lower iron levels. So the vegetarians lower than non-vegetarians. There's been a long-standing debate in the medical and nutrition communities about whether plant-based diets provide adequate iron or if the vegetarians are at higher risk for iron deficiency, anemia, etc. Some studies indicate that vegetarians naturally adapt to lower iron intake by increasing absorption efficiency, while others indicate they tend to have lower overall iron levels. To explore this issue, nutritionists collected data from two random samples of 40 vegetarians and 40 non-vegetarians. There are over 1 million vegetarians and 3 million non-vegetarians. So right here we have our populations. And we know our sample sizes are 40. And so I've noted those off to the side. And we have 1 million population and a 3 million population. All right. So, and here's the information that they have. Vegetarian has a mean iron level of 12.5 milligrams, non-vegetarian 14.3, and there's our associated standard deviations for each, and they're in milligrams per deciliter. All right, each one. So the conditions, here they are. We did them earlier. I'm not going to redo them for this. We did them as part of the warm-up. So we're going to get into actually running the test. Well, we have two populations. They're two independent populations, and we're working with means. So we need to run a two-sample t-test. And there's our formula for the two-sample t right there. X bar 1 minus X bar 2. And so the sample mean of 1 minus sample mean of 2. Here's our sample standard deviation of the first divided by its sample size, the sample deviation of the second squared divided by its sample size. Looking at the table, we have 12.5, 2.8, and a sample size of 40. There it is. And that was for the vegetarian. For the non-vegetarian, it's 14.3, 3.1, and 40. And so because we have it set this way, we think the vegetarian is going to be lower than a non-vegetarian. All right, vegetarian lower because we have X1 being vegetarian. So we think vegetarian is going to be lower than a non-vegetarian. And we have two samples. So this is a two-sample t-test, and it's for means. When we draw, please remember our drawing is always going to be centered on the mean. So mean 1 minus mean 2. Well, the assumption when we get to it, our null hypothesis is mean 1 equals mean 2, which means if I subtract them, I could rewrite it this way: mu1 minus mu2 equals 0. So we're going to actually be centered on mean of 0, mu1 minus mu2. And if you notice, we have X bar 1 minus X bar 2 and negative 1.8. Where did that come from? Well, we took X bar 1 and we subtracted X bar 2. 12.5 minus 14.3. And there it is, negative 1.8. And so that's where that value came from. We said less than, so we need to go ahead and shade that. We'll go ahead and plug in our information. There's nothing real and exciting there. 12.5 here, the 14.3 there. The sample standard deviation goes here and is squared. Sample deviation here goes there and it's squared. And there's our sample sizes. All right, let's talk about our null hypothesis and alternative. So our null hypothesis is that they're the same, that there is no difference between vegetarians and non-vegetarians. The alternative was, because remember we said this was going to be V and this was going to be non-vegetarians, was that vegetarians had a lower, because that's what they had indicated up here, that they're looking for lower. Now, please remember, we can have written it this way. Mu1 minus mu2 equals 0. And our alternative, mu1 minus mu2, is less than 0. Okay? So we have two parameters to define because we have two populations. So let mu1 equal the true population mean iron levels of vegetarians. All right? So here we're addressing the vegetarians. Now we're going to be real creative and let mu2 equal the true population mean iron levels of non-vegetarians. All right? So that takes care of that. The conditions we previously did, so we're not going to do that again. So at this point, it's time to run the test. So we need to enter the data into our calculator. We're going to go stat, test, and drop down to number 4, which is 2 sample t-test, and 12.5, 2.8, and 40. And then we're going to have 14.3, 3.1, and 40. And we said less than, and we will never pool in this class. And so we end up getting a negative 2.72 with a p-value 0.0039. And we had an alpha level of 3%. So our p-value is less than our alpha, so our decision is to reject the null. So our p-value is 0.0039. That came from right here, which is less than 0.03, which is our alpha, and that came from right there. And our decision was we reject the null, and that came from right there. So then we have enough evidence or sufficient evidence to suggest the true population mean iron. And by the way, we don't really have to say this. This is not wrong, but I think it's just better to go mean iron levels of vegetarian is less than that of non-vegetarians. All right. The true population mean iron level of vegetarian, true population mean iron level of vegetarians is less than the true population mean of iron of non-vegetarians. And the reason where that less came from, this less is really important. This less came from our alternative hypothesis. All right. So that's where that less came from. It's notice that it's consistent throughout. And this is a restatement of our first parameter, and this is a restatement of our second parameter. All right, I hope that helped and look forward to seeing you on the next one. Thank you.